Alright, and here's the video review for the Mastermind Creations R08D, the Stealth Assassin, the dark repaint of Azalea, which is their RC. It's based on the IDW alt mode and comic from back when her Spotlight she's a car now again in the comics. But this is only available in Singapore from a store called the Falcon's Hangar at a toy convention. Very limited run. Apparently it's going for crazy stuff on eBay. Which, like I said, is surprising to me because she's a great little figure. I don't know why people are going so nuts for this when there's going to be a full version later on. But it is a very nice repaint. It's black and dark gray and some muted purples. Really nice look to her. She does have the regular old face, despite the fact that she's got the scary face on the packaging. But a really nice color scheme with some red detailing there. Very, very cool. Speaking of the packaging, inside of it, yes, it comes with the manual and bio card in a smaller version of the Mastermind Creations reformatted window packaging. You see the plastic tray inside there and everything. Now this comic, she comes with the bio card and comic/instruction manual when you flip it. This comic here, I believe, is the exact same comic that you're going to get with the regular version of Azalea. But inside the packaging, and this is really cool, and this is about the size of a hardcover book, so it's really neat that when you open it up, there actually is, explaining the stealth repaint, there's actually a little 4-page comic in here, which is really neat. And again, that's just a quick little story to explain why she is this darker color versus her usual pink and white self. But yeah, like I said, good packaging, solid packaging. Everything you've come to expect from Mastermind and the reformatted line. And I like the size of that. I like to get more figures about the size, maybe a little bigger, that can fit in a box about this size, because it's not huge. Like you can see, it's not as big as the Falcon's, obviously, because she's a much smaller figure. But this is just about the right size for packaging, and it's very almost elegant, if I can use that term for a box. So yeah, there's Dark Azalea herself. She does come with that little foot stand, which you don't need to make her stand. You can get some action poses, and she stands okay without it. But by plugging this in, you can get a lot more action shots with her that are a lot more stable than they would be without it. So it's just a little bonus, and we'll get to another purpose for it in alt mode. But if you've seen my other video for Azalea a few months ago, you'll know where that's going. She's got her sword over here in her hand and her pistol over here, which can all store on her. This pistol can store right here on her hip, like this one on this side. And the sword can store back here on the flap, just like this one does over here. Good posability. She got a ball-jointed head, double joints at the shoulders, some swivel on the armor. These panels can flip out of the way and rotate a little bit so that they don't have to sit right up against her arms. She's got a bicep swivel, dual-hinged elbows, wrist swivel. This armor comes around. She's got a joint up here at the top of her torso, a joint here at the bottom of her abdomen, ball joint hips. She's got a thigh swivel just above the knee, just double hinged knees there, and then a double hinged foot. Goes like this and side to side. So again, you've got a pretty nice range of posability. She does have a waist swivel there as well. People are complaining about this hanging down, this armor back here. And while you might lose a little bit of the wrist swivel functionality if you do this, this actually can fold up onto her back and flatten up against her backpack, so you don't have that flap hanging down if you don't want it. And she's got these little hip armor pieces on ball joints here on the side. So you can actually collapse that backpack much nicer than the deluxe that's coming out from Hasbro. So we'll go ahead and transform her. And like I said, normally I like to go from alt mode to robot mode. I like ending on the robot mode. For Azalea, we're going to go to alt mode, because getting to robot mode really isn't that difficult. Getting into alt mode, like, everything's got to line up. And in robot mode, you just kind of pull everything up, and open it up, and make it look like a person. Not that hard. Getting her to fold up into car mode, not super difficult, but it does take a little bit of finesse. Now, I've said before, you can do this, and you absolutely can if you are just looking for frustration and a way to kill a lot of time. It is possible to transform her with these pieces right here still attached, but the instructions say to take them off, and really, if you want to challenge yourself and do it, fine, but it really is way easier to just go ahead and pop these off. And then you have the base Azalea figure here. And again, the transformation really isn't that bad. I would pop off this whole flight stand as well. So the backpack, pull this down. This whole back assembly comes up and out like this. And you rotate this around like that. So this comes down. You see those the pieces where these parts were plugged into on the back of the robot mode fits into that circle there of the cockpit. Fits right in there. And here's where it gets a little tricky. You need to turn her head around like this, and then there's a peg hole. There's like a slot here on the back of her head. Let's see if I can get the light to catch it. Yeah, right about there on the back of her head. That goes on to this peg right here, right there in front of my finger. So, and then this peg on the back here is going to tab at the top of this. So you got to pass her head through here. You got to keep this under this part up here. And I find it helps if you just lift this up and peg this together and then kind of bring the whole assembly back until you get her head pegged on back here. There you go, just like that. And once her head pegs on. Then also it helps if you pull the joints out. Extend that a little bit, and then you can collapse. There you go. And there's everything all locked together. Leave these up. You can see that now our head's pegged in there, up in here, and this pegs up. This piece right here comes up front. The arms, rotate them so the elbow's facing the same side as the shoulder pad. The shoulder pad locks into the arm right here. And you use those double jointed elbows to bring this part up and back, and this part of the elbow tabs into the outside of the shoulder armor. So a really neat little transformation there on the shoulder, and then you're going to kind of, you actually want to keep those out of the way for right now. Bring them up and push them up at the shoulder joint just to get them. By the way, you rotate them so the thumb is on the upper top of the car here. Same over here. Let's lock this into place. So lock it. And lock it. Thumb on top. And then that's more or less ready to go. So you're seeing the base of the hover car coming together here. Now the legs, they come out on these hinges right here. And then they rotate. This panel right here rotates. You can see there's a slot here in the front. We move this panel out of the way, and you can see the slot in the front, and then the hinge it comes on rotates around like that. So when it's all done, you should see the thigh panels, or the up, facing the bottom of the car. And then you can see there's a peg. There's a peg hole inside the leg here. Or it's actually not a peg hole. There's actually a peg inside the leg. Let me see if I can get the light on this. There you go. You see that peg inside the leg. You're going to bring the hand around. This tab right here on the wrist is going to tab into the slot up here on the top of the leg. And then the hand is going to grip that peg. So you get it all lined up. Like that. And you got to do all that with it, keeping that together. And then you want to rotate it. Once you get that done, rotate it so that this tab is on top. Like that. And then rotate this thigh panel around. You'll see a little bit of a gap there. We'll cover that up in one of the later steps. But yeah, so bring that up. Do the same over here. Get that arm on the peg, hand on the peg. Sometimes you'll unpeg that, rotate that up, bring this panel down. The feet, go ahead and straighten out like that. Now we're going to connect the legs in two different places. This peg hole right here on the foot is going to peg on to the side of the wrist armor here, this peg on the side of the wrist armor. And then this slot right here is going to tap onto this peg right here. And so you have to use those double jointed knees to do it. So bend it so it's kind of square. Make sure that peg comes down on top of that right there. And then line up the peg here with the wrist armor, the forearm armor, and snap that together. Like that. Go ahead and you rotate that out. Fold these panels down first, just help make it easier. And there's a little indentation on the side of this panel right here, and the joint here for the foot just kind of sits in that and locks into place there. It doesn't lock into place, but it holds everything together and it sits like that. So see, we're coming together. And exact same thing over on this side. Bring it up. You have to push it back a little bit to get that to line up properly. Bring it in. And peg that on there. And bring that up to, like I said, you want to make sure the shoulders are pushed up too. That'll bring everything into place. And if you've seen the pictures of Zinnia, you see that's kind of what her car mode looks like. She doesn't have the these panels reattached, and she's just a little hover car like that. But we want the hover car, so you can actually rotate these out once they're locked in place. You can rotate these out just a little bit here, and you can take this peg right here is going to peg in to this side here, just under the red stripe. Let's see if we can see the peg hole there. You can see a peg hole on this side, right over there, by the red stripe. And then this post is going to go right back where it was in robot mode. You can see why removing these makes this so much easier. It's possible to finagle everything around there. And then these pegs right here peg into the side of the front. I'll show you a little better. You see there's a peg hole up here. Now, come here. Yeah, there we go. Get it all in, peg it all together. There's the hover car mode. Pretty cool. Now the pistols then come back. You flip the handle down so it's straight, and then this little piece right here is going to clip on. There's a little clip right here. You just clip it on like that. It's going to perform some rear thrusters there on the back of the vehicle mode. There we go. And then the swords fold up. There's a kind of a squarish tab on the handle of the sword. You can plug in either side. These peg onto the side of the vehicle mode like this. Just right there on the slot on the side of the leg. Store right there. And then you're in vehicle mode. So yeah, takes a little bit of doing, but you got a nice little hover car. And speaking of hover car, like really nice and streamlined. There's a nice little wedge. And again, mimics her Cybertronian hover car mode from the Spotlight very well, even though she's changed modes a couple times in the comic, I think. And this piece right here, the wider prongs go in the front, but it plugs right in here into the waist to give it a little hover car. So it looks, it's not visible directly from unless you get like directly down from the side, but from a slightly elevated angle, it looks like the car is hovering, which is really cool. Now, since a lot of people have figured it out, I will go ahead and show some of these off. You can also pop these off, back off. I'll pop the swords off. Come on. So pop these off. Rotate the legs down on these joints because the the forearm armor swivels around, and then her knee pads come out and forms a little like hover fighter. You can bring those down a little bit more like that. And I would like to see, like the colors here remind me a lot of Mindwipe. And I almost want to see this mold with the Predaqueen head that they're doing are painted like this and called Night Bat or something. Like, I think it would be a really cool look because this has a very bat-like alt mode. Like, this really looks like it could be a Cybertronian Mindwipe. And I would love to see something similar to that happen. But, again, it's not up to me. Oh, this piece came off. Sometimes that happens. These just hinge on. So if you come on, there we go. Yeah, that little post came out. So you got that little alt mode. And personally, like I said, I like this little snub fighter. But you got a couple different car options as well. There's a little piece right here that flips out on the front. And then you take these, fold them straight down. Peg these together. Like that. And then you can see these two pegs right here on the bottom of this are going to peg into this slot right here. And these will peg into the front here. So that goes there. And then these peg into the two little slots in the black part of the chest. And that gives her fighter mode. So if you wonder, like, all the main fembots can form different alt modes. So you got a couple different car modes with the fenders and without the fenders, and then basically this kind of jet fighter mode with and without the fenders. There's a little bit of a gap back here, which I like to fill in again by taking the swords and you can store them however you want. You can store them, just plug them into the legs again here on top. And that kind of fills in the gap there a little bit and still allows her to store all of her weapons. You can put them underneath as well if you want. So let's go ahead and get that on there. So yeah, cool little secrets from Mastermind's Azalea. Like I said, this is the dark Azalea repaint. Very hard to get right now, unless you were at the toy show in Singapore, or know somebody who works at the Falcon's Hangar. I don't know if they're making them for order or what. I'm not sure how that got distributed after the convention, or if maybe it even sold out at the convention. I'm not sure, but it was only available in Singapore from the Falcon's Hangar, and really is a striking looking robot.